Welcome to the Felt Recoil Podcast. My name is Chris, and across from me
is Patrick.
How are you, sir?
I'm good, man.
It's good to be here for episode number 45 of the Felt Recoil Podcast. A lot to get to. The NFL causing controversy. Everybody seems to be missing the point. We'll get to that. There's a new Glock. It's the number 46. We'll get to that, too. First, it's our charity of choice this week. As many times before, Operation Underground Railroad, they're doing a lot of good all around the world. They're helping rescue children who have been abducted and sold into sex slavery. It happens to kids, it happens to adults, and it happens here at home. They need about $60,000 to conduct a single mission, so they need your help. If you will help, just visit OURrescue.org for all the details. OURrescue.org. You can literally help good people do God's work right here on earth right now. OURrescue.org. All right, so a lot to get to, no denying that, but let's start, just so we don't forget, with the Tennessee terrorist attack. Did you know there's a terrorist attack in Tennessee? I don't know if you knew that.
I couldn't. I looked because I had heard a rumor.
Yeah, that was.
So I checked all the major media outlets, and I couldn't find anything.
Well, Breitbart's got it, and a few other local, like the Tennessean, reported it, so that's good. Everybody reads.
I forgot to check that one.
That's in your bookmarks, right? Here's the rundown of what happened. A good guy with a gun confronted Emmanuel Kadiga Sampson on Sunday. I guess that's how you say it. I don't know. He's a Sudanese immigrant to the United States, and he decided to shoot up a church. He killed a lady in the parking lot, and then he goes inside the church. He's confronted by an usher who he pistol whips, and then accidentally, from all accounts, shoots himself. After he shoots himself accidentally, the usher runs to his car and grabs his own gun, comes back and holds the terrorist at bay until police arrive. Okay?
I had no idea any of that happened.
So that's what happened.
That's pretty impressive.
I just need to ask this question.
Impressive that he shot himself.
I remember what happened following the tragedy in Charleston, where everyone overreacted because I think Dylan Roof put a Confederate flag on his Facebook page or something stupid like that. I will say this as a preface. I'm not a fan of the Confederate flag. I've tried to make that clear. I find it to be one of those things where this is a part of our history. I get it. It's your heritage. That's okay. But you have to admit, there's a lot of hatred involved in that heritage. That was a heritage that thought you should be allowed to own people as property. And I'm not saying you can't be proud of your Confederate heritage. I'm just saying you have to be sensitive to the idea that had the Confederacy won, people would still be slaves. You have to be sensitive to that idea and allow people to say to you, hey, I kind of take issue with the fact that you want to celebrate that and champion it out in the open like this. Okay, that's an understandable offense. So now, I do wonder, though, will we take on this whole African hyphenation that has taken us by storm because now an African man has shot up a bunch of white people in a church in Tennessee? And then I have to ask, can we please stop everyone?
You mean he wasn't African-American?
He was Sudanese. He was an actual African.
Right.
They are actual African, not African-American, which is fake African because I think my skin color looks like I came from there. Does that make sense?
Got it.
Calling someone an African-American is a very racist thing to do. We can all agree to that, right? It's a very racist approach to the world. Oh, you must be African-American. No, I'm from Kansas. I'm American. That's right. A possibility that you truly step on someone's toes. But we don't care because that's the accepted form of racism, right?
Well, to what other region or country does that really apply?
Not even a region. Right.
No one ever does that, right? I mean, in any other society or culture, do they refer to them as whatever? Either you were born there or you were born here.
There's no such thing as African British. That is not a thing. No other country in the world calls black people African whatever. Africa's a continent. It's a continent. It's like saying I'm a North American white guy. That's stupid. Be specific. Help me out. Where are you from? So I don't like the African-American thing. I understand what they're trying to go for because I guess black is offensive. I don't know. But
so
the point being,
white is offensive?
Yes, white. I'm very offended by white, by the way.
Okay.
I prefer... The point is...
You look like it.
Yeah.
Because you're kind of pink.
I'm a little pasty. Can we please agree now to ban all the African flags that I keep seeing?
Yeah. So
at
what
the Black
we're going
Lives
to do
Matter
about that?
protest, by the way.
Yeah, I got it all figured out.
Okay, lay it on me.
The ambassador to the United Nations, Nikki Haley, is going to come down swiftly and take care of that for us.
Right,
okay?
she's going to make sure. Old Nikki Haley, she was quick to the
she's not going to get
South
anything
Carolina
else
Capitol.
accomplished while she's in office, but she will get that done, sir. That much, I assure you.
Well, listen, we're all worked up over the Confederate flag, and we're worked up over Russian involvement in the U.S. election.
No, we're not anymore.
But wait, how are they connected? But we were.
We were, but we're not.
There was a time. Here's the deal. We rid ourselves of the Confederate flag, okay? And we decided that Russia probably meddled, so we're going to have Senate hearings where Facebook and Twitter CEOs and execs are going to testify to Congress about the ads they sold to Russia. Now, guess what we've learned from that? The left wants you to know that Russia has meddled and they support Donald Trump. Do you know what we've learned? Russia bought ads in support of the Black Lives Matter movement and targeted Baltimore and Ferguson. Russia bought social media ads to help add to the outrageous riots and the disruption of the American economy, of the American peace of mind, and to add to the divisiveness of America. That is what Russia was doing, and that is what Facebook allowed them to do.
I think Facebook should have taken a page from Hillary Clinton and just deleted those so nobody found out about that. I mean, because that's a little embarrassing.
From thehill.com, one of the thousands of political ads purchased by Russian groups during the 2016 campaign was a Black Lives Matter ad that targeted residents of Ferguson, Missouri, and Baltimore. This is being reported by CNN. That's crazy. The ad, which reportedly ran on Facebook in late 2015 or early 2016, was designed to look as if it supported the Black Lives movement. Some versions of the targeted ad would look threatening to the group. However, CNN reported Facebook revealed this month that Russian actors potentially linked to the Kremlin purchased $100,000 worth of political ads on the site during the 2016 presidential campaign. Now, that's a very weird way to frame that statement, because just because they purchased it during the campaign doesn't mean they were trying to influence the campaign, because now we know they purchased many ads. This says one, but then it also says some versions of the ad, so that's more than one. Trust me, from somebody that buys targeted Facebook ads as a habit for different businesses, you don't buy one ad and get multiple versions.
It's not one and done.
Right. No, you can buy one and done, but then you buy 3 or 4 more of a different flavor, if you will. So if Felt Recool was going to buy Facebook ads and promote which went really well, we boosted, if you've seen Facebook from us, we have a flag of the Marine Corps Memorial, or a picture of the Marine Corps Memorial where they're lifting the flag and it says, "Hey, NFL, you don't have to stand for the flag because somebody else did that for you." That went over really, really well. So you boost that with a little bit of money, but you can't choose another something to run in that same time frame under the same budget. Does that make sense? Gotcha. Yeah. So you can't say that Russia ran one ad and then had several versions. It doesn't work that way. They bought many ads.
They paid for several.
Yeah, they paid for several ads if there were some versions. So we have to rid ourselves of the African flag. You are racist if you support Africa. You're definitely racist if you support Sudanese people. You're racist if you call yourself an African American. What else do we add to the list? And hey, these aren't my rules. These aren't my rules. I'm going to go off on a limb
and say we don't know what his motivation was yet.
No, we don't know yet. But these aren't my rules. These are the rules of Nikki Haley et al. This is how it works. When somebody terrorizes innocent people, we rid ourselves of the scourge of the potential thought of that person. And that's what we're doing.
Well, and that's smart, because history has never once repeated itself.
That's right. All right. That was a bad idea. I just clicked the wrong thing here. Where'd you go, Colin Kaepernick? We're going to move on and talk about the NFL. And boy.
Or, as I was trying to point out earlier, why we're not talking about Russia anymore.
Because of the NFL. And then also the fact that they're raising the base tax level, maybe, or many other things happening around the country. But it is worth mentioning that the NFL fiasco is being missed. The whole point here is being missed by, it seems like everyone talking about it. Everyone talking about it seems to miss the major point. And I don't know how. Well, I do. I know why. But we do want to say that the NFL segment tonight is brought to you by white privilege. White privilege. allowing white people to raise ungrateful children like Colin Kaepernick and Barack Obama for far too long. End white privilege. Thank you, white privilege, for your sponsorship of this program. All right.
I'm just excited we have sponsors now.
Can I say that you made me cut a line from that?
No.
Okay.
No. Okay, you can.
Patrick made me edit the white privilege sponsorship because I wanted it to end with end white privilege so black people can raise their own children. Patrick felt like that was just overtly, terribly racist and we had to cut it. But I said, no, originally it was... It's going to say, let black people raise their own children, but then that sounded too much like abandonment. And if you just say, so black people can raise their own children, it's as if you're taking their children from them. That's what white privilege is. We take their kids and raise them into successful businessmen and presidents of the United States. I hope you understand it's all based in the absurdity. It's all based in the absurdity of what is A, the idea that white privilege is even a thing, and B, that there should be some validity to this protest in the NFL. All right. Everyone that's talking about the NFL taking a knee, what are they saying? Saying a couple of things. I can't tell you the absurdity of the arguments I've heard.
The absurdity has gotten to a point where it's actually hard to make out what the arguments are, though.
Right. There's no unified argument here, right?
Well, it's typical of the left.
Yeah, you got that right. What seems to be the common theme now is they're fighting for equality, right? Is that am I close? That's what everybody is arguing. Well, this is about equality for all people.
I caught a couple segments that it was all based on they're not protesting the flag, but they are. But it all boils down to equality and that there is systemic racism in the United States.
That's right. So,
which is hilarious.
And then you're seeing this thing float around that says, "This is you." Typically, when they play the national anthem, right? And the guys are like kicked back drinking a beer. Well, that kind of ignores the fact the guys aren't there. Which is the point. Like if you're in the presence of the stars and stripes and you're in the presence of the national anthem, you should stand up and you should face towards the flag, put your hand over your heart. NFL rules say you're supposed to do it, by the way, or that you could be fined or suspended. But let's ignore the rules of the NFL. And now everybody's sharing this meme about U.S. flag code, and the retort is, well, Walmart has American flag underwear on sale. Two things. One, you're exactly right. They shouldn't put an image of the actual American flag on an object and try and sell it to you. That shouldn't happen. But there's no limit. There's no saying you can't put red, white, and blue on things. There's a difference between a color scheme and the actual flag. I get it. However, that's not the point. The point is, why did the knee begin? Why did take a knee kick off in the first place?
That all depends on who you ask.
See what I said? Why did take a knee kick off in the first place?
Yeah.
You got to slow down to catch my puns.
Football reference. Got it.
All right, so who would we ask? We would ask Colin Kaepernick, right? So here's an interview on NFL.com with Colin Kaepernick on August the 27th, 2016. This is just a day or two after he took a knee. His latest refusal to stand, according to NFL.com. His latest refusal to stand for the anthem, he has done this in at least one other preseason game, came before the 49ers' preseason loss to Green Bay at Levi Stadium on Friday night. Kaepernick told NFLmedia.com, quote, "I am not going to stand up to show pride in a flag for a country that oppresses black people and people of color. To me, this is bigger than football, and it would be selfish on my part to look the other way. There are bodies in the street and people getting paid leave and getting away with murder. The national anthem is and always will be a special part of the pregame ceremony," according to the 49ers after Kaepernick's statement. Okay? Now, what was happening in August 2016? Do you remember? We were about 3 weeks removed from the acquittal of 3 black police officers in the murder charges against them for the death of Freddie Gray in Baltimore. We were probably knee-deep in the black community tearing apart Baltimore, Maryland, out of anger over the fact that 3 black police officers were... Oh, wait, I'm sorry, what? Correction. Oh, there were 6 officers involved. Yeah, no, I know there were 6. Oh, 3 of them were white. Well, I thought they were riding over the 3 black that were acquitted. They're riding over all of them.
What about the DA?
Oh, yeah.
Or the mayor?
Marilyn Mosby. Hello.
Or the chief of police?
Oh, did she settle the lawsuit for filing false charges? Really? That's crazy. Huh. It's all predicated on a lie. Every bit of it is predicated on a lie. There's no truth to Kaepernick's statement that people are dying in the streets and officers are going on paid leave. So what does that mean? The whole point is, opinion aside, according to Colin Kaepernick, if you believe that the police are racists who are murdering black people without recourse and leaving them to die in American streets, in American neighborhoods, take a knee during the national anthem. If you believe that, take a knee during the national anthem. And so all these people are now taking a knee. So what are they doing? They're agreeing with Barack Obama, who spent 8 years in the White House trying to tell everyone that the American police officer is inherently racist and stupid. And he said as much. It started with Henry Louis Gates when he couldn't get into his Cambridge home and he'd forgotten his keys and he would not cooperate with police that showed up on the report of a robbery from Gates's neighbor, who said, it looks like someone's trying to break into my neighbor's house. And then Obama goes on TV and says the police acted stupidly. That's where it all began. And it has trickled down to people like Colin Kaepernick, who, by the way, was abandoned by his black family and raised by 2 white people, never knew any parents outside of his white parents, to rise up to the NFL and make millions of dollars a year to play a game. And now he says, I'm oppressed. People of color are oppressed because people of color are killed by other people of color who are then acquitted by people of color of charges brought against them by people of color. What the heck is going on in this country? What is going on when people are willing to openly and publicly ascribe that belief system and say, this is what I think?
I'll tell you what's going on. What's going on is Donald Trump is a Nazi, okay?
Okay, Aaron Burnett, I appreciate bringing it up.
And here's the thing. Here's how I know that. Because he has made it easier for those people to parade their beliefs out in the streets.
The black people?
No,
the Nazis.
The Nazis. The white supremacist Nazis.
I don't understand.
Because the whole time we had a black president, all those people were hiding. They didn't want to come outside because they were like, well, there's a black guy out there. And so we're just going to stay inside until he's gone.
It's a great question.
After 8 years, they were like, finally, we can come out.
Where were the anti-fascists when the United States government seized control of a third of the economy by passing Obamacare? Where were those people who hate fascism and hate big government when the government, by force, changed the rules of the Senate and passed Obamacare?
I hate to be the guy that keeps giving you all the answers, but they were all at Hot Topic buying Che Guevara T-shirts.
Yeah, right.
Simultaneously.
And speaking of Colin Kaepernick and Che Guevara, did you see the West Point graduate?
I did. I hope he gets throat chopped.
He's about to. I think he's got a hard life ahead of him if he thinks he's going anywhere. If you're unfamiliar, a West Point graduate sent a photo out on Twitter in support of Colin Kaepernick. And in his hat, so he took his, what do you call it, a lid, a cap? A cap. He took his cap off, and it said, communism will win. Oh, it's funny. They've removed the pictures. That's strange. The cap
still
said,
on his Twitter account.
Communism will win. And then he opened his uniform. This is a West Point cadet. Maybe a graduate. Had he graduated?
I think it was at graduation, may have been at graduation, yeah.
All right.
He's now a second lieutenant in the Army.
So the U.S. Army, is he really?
Yeah.
Jeez. The U.S. Army is probing a West Point graduate's pro-communist posts on social media. The Army was quick to announce it was looking into the messages posted by Second Lieutenant Spencer Rapone, issuing a statement saying, Second Lieutenant Rapone's actions in no way reflect the values of the U.S. Military Academy or the U.S. Army. As figures of public trust, members of the military must exhibit exemplary... Man, I thought I was going to make it. Can I try again? Good. As figures of the public trust, members of the military must exhibit exemplary conduct and and are prohibited from engaging in certain expressions of political speech in uniform. Now, Rapone put out 2 visibly pro-communist posts on Twitter this week, according to thehill.com, including one in which he voiced his support for Argentine communist revolutionary Che Guevara. In case there was any lingering doubt, he wrote, "Hasta la victoria siempre," Rapone tweeted on Monday, along with a picture of him revealing a red shirt adorned with Guevara's face under his uniform. I don't know what "Hasta la victoria siempre" means because I don't speak Hong Kong ching chong, but what I do know is that Che Guevara summarily executed black people, homosexuals, and anyone in political disagreement with him.
No. He's a freedom fighter. That's the people's guy.
Yes,
okay?
sir. Yes. No, you're right.
As long as you're not black or gay.
Right. If you're not black or gay or a minority of any sort whose skin tone doesn't match Che's, you may have lived. Do you realize, by the way, that Che... Here's a great one for you. Che and Castro, if you were a reporter and you wrote something about them that they didn't like, you realize they would cut your tongue out to prove a point? And likely gouge out your eyes so you couldn't read anymore. If you've never read While Europe Slept, read that book and hear the story of the reporter out of Cuba who had that happen to him and now reads via Braille. It's the father of one of the author's friends growing up. And before you think, hey, here's a crazy right-wing nut job telling me books to read, it's written by a gay, liberal man. Okay? And it's worth reading. It's worth reading. You have something on your mind, Mr. Hulon?
Well, I was just thinking, I wasn't in the military, so I can't speak to this for certain, but I would think that making political statements while in uniform is highly frowned upon.
Yeah, you're not really allowed to do it.
So, and I don't know how far that goes, okay? So follow me on this little rabbit trail here.
Lay it on me.
So if he's at West Point, which is a U.S. military academy, right?
Yes, sir.
Does that go as far as the academy? In other words, have you already signed on? Have you already signed up to be in the military?
Oh, I see.
As a cadet at West Point?
I would think so.
If so, then whenever this picture was taken, I would think that those same, that honor code would fall into place.
Mm-hmm. I would hope so.
It's just a thought.
I would think so. I mean, it says he's already enlisted, so he must have been at the time, right? You would think. Why do you go to West Point and not go in the military? So this ties back to an interesting life lesson I learned while I was on vacation recently. Let me tell you 2 quick stories entitled, because here's my problem. So these NFL guys are taking a knee, right? And to them, it's their form of protest over what I like to call manufactured oppression. Nobody's after them. They're all multimillionaires. And they take a knee in support, and they've put their hands up while taking a knee in support of attempted cop killer Michael Brown. Well, words I can't say to you on the podcast because my mom listens. Just know that that's how I feel about you. I have zero tolerance. I have no sympathy for these people. They believe cops are racist murderers, and they support a young guy who literally tried to kill a cop. He tried to kill a cop, and he got himself shot, and these guys are on his side. I saw Trayvon Martin listed as a victim of police brutality. I thought that was so funny because George Zimmerman was not a cop. He was, by all accounts,
hey, just stretch that narrative any way you can.
As much as you can. You know, we had a black guy shot in a gas station parking lot in Columbia, South Carolina a few years ago, and it was a bad shoot. And that cop's not a cop anymore. He's faced the judicial system. He will do his time. And that's the way it should work, and that's the way it does work. You cannot complain about black men dying at the hands of white police officers when it's about 16 black men who have been killed in the last 2 years by police officers and 800 this month in the city of Chicago at the hands of other black men. So you make your list. Make your laundry list of black men who you know that have been killed by police that you think is a questionable shoot. And then I'll show you a list of 800 men, black people, killed by other black men in the city of Chicago.
Find it right now at heyjackass.com.
Yeah, exactly.
Go ahead and cite our source.
They tally it all up. So stop with the pretend oppression. Stop with the pretend outrage over something that doesn't exist. All you're doing is trying to be the cool kid. You're kneeling now because somebody else made it look cool, and so you're willing to do it now. But when I took vacation And here's the other problem. It's all a learned behavior. If everyone around you tells you that people don't like you because of the color of your skin, every little thing that happens to you, you'll think is because of the color of your skin, when in fact, you might just be a jackass. You might just be the guy that nobody wants to hang out with because you're a jerk. You might be self-absorbed. You might be narcissistic. People just might not like you because you're abrasive. You're hard to get along with. But instead, people now teach their children, well, it's because you're black. What was it, the Dove commercial? Who was the company that had the racist commercial about how black people are having to teach their kids? Do you remember that? The moms, you're not beautiful, you're not pretty for a black woman, you're just beautiful, and all this garbage of, if people make these offhanded comments to you and you think it's racist and it's probably racist, well, only because mom ingrained that into your head while you were at home. My son and I, both my boys and I, were in a Zaxby's in Summerville, South Carolina about 2 weeks ago, and they had, I don't know, Maury Povich. No. It was The Doctors. There's apparently a TV show called The Doctors, and I was not aware of this show, but it's called The Doctors.
I haven't caught that one yet.
Don't know anything about it. Here's what I know. My son, who was turning 5 that week, we were standing in Zaxby's waiting on food, and so we all kind of, your gaze goes up to the TV, and the camera pans, and there's a guy who has this enormous mass on the side of his face. So the right side of his face is drooping and hanging as if a balloon has been stapled to the side of his face. And my 5-year-old goes, ha, 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 look at him, and just laughs, which is what a 5-year-old does. And he points at him, and he goes, Dad, look at that guy. Look at his face. He's got a balloon on his face. And I felt terrible. For him, for me, for everybody involved. And so I said, hey, buddy, that guy can't help that. He was born like that, okay? And we don't laugh at that. You do not laugh at things that someone was born with. And he goes, oh. And I said, bud, listen, just like you were born with your hair and your eye color, why would someone laugh at that? There's nothing you could do about that. Don't laugh at people because of something they can't control. It was a little moment that I hope maybe he learned something. We go to the beach. We spend our week at the beach. We head home, and everybody's cramped in the car. And it's about a 3-hour drive. And I say, guys, listen, let's get back to town. We'll go unload the car. And how about Chick-fil-A for dinner? You guys want to go to Chick-fil-A? Yeah, all right. So we go to Chick-fil-A for dinner. And there's these two boys. So my two boys run into the playground, Chick-fil-A. My wife and I sit in a booth, and we're watching all the kids play on the little, every Chick-fil-A has a play area, and we're watching all these kids play. And there was my son and 3 other boys who were trying to stand up on a bench, jump up, and touch something. I don't know. It doesn't matter. But that was their objective. Stand on the bench, jump up, and touch this object. And there was a father at the table across from us. You're in a booth, and your booth will share, you share a back of a seat with someone. So we're sharing backs, but I can see the dad, but I can't see his 2 kids. And his 2 kids turn, and they start watching there's like 5 kids jumping and doing this, and all they're doing is mocking them. All they're doing. He can't jump very high. Look at him. He fell. He did this. And it occurs to me, we raise douchebags. You're born bad. I think that's a question everybody has to ask themselves. Are people born good or are they born bad? You have to allow your children to grow up to be idiots like Colin Kaepernick. You have to allow your children to be the douchebags in Chick-fil-A at 12 and 13 years old who find it quite okay right in front of dad, who did nothing, by the way, nose buried in his phone, who find it okay to mock, mimic, and make fun of a group of kids half their age, 5 and 6-year-olds jumping up trying to touch a car. If your dad is looking to raise good people, if you're trying to, as the Chick-fil-A book says, if you want to build, how's he say? It's better to build boys than to mend men. So if you want to build your boys into solid men when they grow old, you correct that behavior when they're young, and you go, hey. At least they're trying. Get out there and see if you can do it. Can you go do it? Those guys are half your size and they're doing it. Go see if you can do it. Oh, you can do it? That's good. But remember, he did it and he's half your size. So you should be jumping twice as high because he's half your size. And I'm not saying it. I am kind of saying it because I was offended because it was my kid they were making fun of. But I just remained quiet, and I had this idea. We teach our kids that it's okay to be that way. that it's okay to down everybody around you, and it's okay to look down your nose at people. And that is what I think has happened with the Colin Kaepernick generation. It's okay to get on a knee and show disrespect to the symbol of a country where people have bled and died so that you can take that knee. Here's a rule of thumb. If you take a knee in front of the flag, you should have to bleed just like the people that bled so that you could have the right to take your knee in front of the flag. Make sense? Make sense? In some way or another, you have to have shed blood. You have to have lost a limb in order to take that knee. And for the one Navy SEAL, by the way, that they're now citing that Kaepernick met with, who said, hey, man, if you'll kneel, it'll sit better with us. Well, he doesn't speak for the military, and he doesn't speak for 99% of America who disagree with this absurd idea that we should get on the knee and disrespect the symbol, by the way, that is the unity of the country.
Well, the ratings speak to that. I mean, that's pretty obvious at this point. People are just fleeing watching those games in droves.
Yep.
And I think the next logical step there is for the advertisers to do the same, which I think will correct this learned behavior. So, yeah, I mean, if it is learned behavior like you're suggesting, comes from the home, then I think that's the only way to fix it. Do you think? Let me ask you a question. Do you think this notion of being offended by everything comes from that same sort of place?
Sure. Right. Yeah.
Because I was thinking about it the other day, and I remember what I was doing.
It's probably nothing.
But I thought, I guess I saw something about these people were saying they were offended by this and that, and it just kept going on and on and on. It was all these really stupid things. And I thought, am I so different that nothing really offends me?
Callous soul. Just a callous soul.
Well, maybe you're right.
It's your white privilege.
Well,
you don't have to be offended by anything. Nobody's out for you. You're white.
Yeah. I like how you were able to weave our sponsor right back into this segment.
Man, I'm so good. It's only $50 a mention.
Now we just got to get those white people to give us that money.
Right? Where is the man with my check?
But seriously, I'm of the opinion that if I disagree with it, I can generally tune it out.
Yeah, but Patrick,
I don't let it get to me in a way that it offends me. So I don't
tell me the time in your life that your mom or dad looked at you and said, "Patrick, this is happening to you because you are Patrick Hulan, a white male in a predominantly white society." All right, Patrick, it's simply because of, and then any feature.
My parents never looked at me and said, "You can do anything you want in life,
right?
Because you're white." That never happened.
As the Jack Andy goes, my mom said to me once, "You can do anything in life within reason." And I said, "Oh, sounds great. What do you mean by within reason?" And she said, "Wow, you ask a lot of questions for a garbage man."
But I don't understand it. I really don't. I don't understand what it even means to be offended.
But do you remember? Seriously, though,
does that make me insane?
No, it just makes you normal.
Okay, because I feel like everywhere I turn, someone is offended by something that should be meaningless to them.
Listen, I learned a very important lesson in 4th grade, and maybe it was 5th grade, 4th or 5th, and it goes like this. Richard Richardson was cheating at touch football, and Richard Richardson was black. He wasn't actually. We were kids. 4th or 5th grade. And I tagged him, and I knew I had tagged him. Maybe I didn't tag him. I'm pretty sure I tagged him. And I run up on him afterwards, and I go, hey, you're cheating. You were down way back there. We're out on the playground playing touch football, And he goes, "No, I wasn't." And I don't know what Chris Vermillion was thinking, but I just shoved that dude right in his chest. I said, "Yes, you were. You were down back there."
You gave him another 2-hand tag, huh?
He cold cocked me right across the side of the head, man. Pow! I fell on the ground. And he said, get up. And then I heard our teacher, I think it was Mr. Jewell, which would put me in 5th grade, but maybe he was just there. "Christopher, Richard, stop." And he comes running down. And by the time I stood up, all of Richard's friends who shared his skin tone had formed a semicircle around me. And even at that age, I knew that if I swung again, I was in a lot of trouble. And that might come from the fact that Quentin and Quan, who who were the two black boys that went to Sunday school with me, kind of popped me on the side of the head for fun every Sunday for a couple hours. Like, they would just follow me around and just kind of pick on me and hit at me, and my brother would come up and, you know, kind of brush them off. But that's what I remember. I remember black kids beating on me, you know? And I don't mean that like in a racist way. My point is this. I remember Quentin and Quan.
That's all starting to make sense now, Chris.
Quentin and Quan are one of my earliest memories. I couldn't even tell you how old I was, and they used to pick on me and beat me up before and after Sunday school because they bust inner city kids into our Sunday school.
Just let it all out.
Then I remember Richard Richardson.
Keep going.
Here's my point. If I said to you, I'm under a firm belief that to fight one black man is to fight all of his black friends around him, you would say, well, that's pretty racist. But I've experienced that, and I saw it. And so I say, well, that was my experience with it. Do I believe that's a fact? No, that's not a fact. That's not a fact. It was one instance where that happened to have happened. Okay? And I had a couple of bullies who happen to be black. Where I get offended is when people tell me about my white privilege and how I don't know what it's like to be oppressed, and I can tell multiple stories about being beaten up by black kids growing up. Was that my white privilege? Are we square because they took it out of my hide as I grew up? Are we okay? Is it okay now? Is my white privilege paid for? Are we equal? And so I don't think it was because they were black. I just think they were bad kids. I find it all just to be so absurd. We make it all up. It's all made up. It is manufactured in their own heads that they're oppressed because of the color of their skin. Black men kill other black men at an alarming rate when considered against the white population killing the white population. It is astounding. It should be horrific to anyone who's willing to consider the numbers, but they aren't, because it's just easier to justify the fact that, well, it feels better to say that black men are arrested at a disproportionate level. Right. But what crimes are they committing? They're only 13. Look, the black population is about 15% of America, but they're committing a much higher rate of the crime. Have you looked at the crime rate of NFL players? Is everybody willing to slow down for a second and say, hey, you know, wait a second. Are we okay with like
these are clean cut guys, Chris?
Oh, you sure?
And they do a lot of charity work.
Okay, tell me more. I'm listening.
They give back to their communities.
Oh, okay.
And I got nothing.
That is probably very true.
I bet some of them do.
Most of it.
Legitimately, I'm going to stop with the sarcasm. Some of them really do. What's the guy's name that raised like $18 million or $30 million, whatever crazy amount it was, for the hurricane victims in Houston?
Don't know.
His name escapes me because I don't watch pro football. I didn't before they were taking a knee, right. and I still don't.
I mean, nothing's changed in my Sunday, watching habits.
No, but mine either.
Let's just roll.
My point
through.
is that guy is doing a great service. Okay, so it's not all of them. However,
a vast majority. No, maybe not a vast majority. You can run through a pretty easy list here. The question we posed on Facebook is, when is the NFL going to take a knee in solidarity against domestic violence? Because if you look at the arrest record, over the last 2 years, sexual assault and domestic violence. So we couldn't include Ray Rice, who knocked the ever-living bejesus out of his fiancée in a hotel room or in a hotel elevator. What did he get, 2 games? I think he got 2 games. I think they suspended him 2 games that year. 2 games that year. I think he's having trouble finding a team now. Is he still playing? He might even still be playing. Who knows? What I do know is he didn't go to prison, as he should have gone. And you know what? Back up to, what's that dude's name? Ron Artest, that played for the Pacers, ran into the crowd, and beat the willies out of an innocent guy who had nothing to do with anything. Do you remember that? Yep. All right, that was a black man attacking a white guy in professional sports setting. A white guy that had nothing to do with the altercation of someone throwing a beer on Ron Artest. Ron Artest ran into the crowd and beat up an innocent white man. Why are we not talking about the fact that he can still find work? He is a racist monster who attacked an innocent man. Didn't he change his name to like War Peace sign or something? All right. Anyway, so we couldn't include Ray Rice. We can't include Ron Artest. But here's our list. Check this out. Michael Bowie of the New York Giants. Criminal domestic violence. Arrested. Convicted. You didn't make this list, by the way, if the charges got dropped. So this is not including players where the charges got dropped. Tremaine Brock of the San Francisco 49ers, Will Parks of the Denver Broncos, Monte Ball of the New England Patriots, Johnny Manziel of the Cleveland Browns, Ahmad Brooks of the 49ers, irony, Justin Cox of the Chiefs, Josh Brown of the Giants, Ray McDonald of the Chicago Bears, Bruce Miller of the 49ers, Jonathan Dwyer of the Arizona Cardinals, and Rodney Austin of the Detroit Lions. Can I just point something out? I'm noticing as I look back at our Facebook, the 49ers have untagged themselves from this post. I went through and tagged them in all of these. I tagged every team to let them know your guys are beating on women and committing sexual assault against women, and you're not doing a damn thing to stop that in the league. Sure, these players are let go after it happens, but this shows you the type of people the NFL is willing to employ if it makes them money. Name another industry for me. By the way, here is the number for you. 1,600-something NFL players. On average, an NFL player is arrested every 7 days. Once a week, an NFL player is arrested. Think about where you work and everywhere you have worked before and tell me that would fly anywhere you've ever worked. That one employee from your place of employment was arrested every week. And tell me, by the way, when it would ever fly that a white coach would be able to tell a Hispanic player to apologize for voicing his political opinion.
What's the average NFL salary?
Oh, man, I don't even know.
I mean, ballpark, what do you think?
$200,000 a year? Probably, I don't know, maybe even $400,000 to $500,000 a year, because, some of those guys are making multi-millions. So if you're talking average, it's probably going to pull everybody up to close to $1 million average, but I have no clue.
The reason I ask is, if you took where I work and then you paid those people on that same average, I bet the arrest record would go up. Because people would start acting
a fool,
insane.
Because they have all that money.
They have all that money, and they don't know what to do with it. So they just do stupid things.
But that would still speak to the caliber of people.
Sure.
Which really proves the point that there's no reason to deify professional athletes. We treat them like heroes. We treat them like they're smart because they're good at a sport. Something that's always bothered me with celebrities. Everybody wants to treat Matt Damon like he's some sort of genius because he played one in a movie. Okay? I'm like, oh, this guy must be so smart. No, he wrote a good movie. He probably studied a couple of concepts. He's probably a pretty sharp guy. You're not successful in a business like Hollywood without being rather intelligent. Doesn't make him the genius that he played in Good Will Hunting. We now live in a world, think about this, where it was okay for the Pittsburgh Steelers to have a minority Hispanic apologize for having a dissenting political view from the team. And his view, by the way, was that he would come out of the tunnel and place a hand over his heart and acknowledge the American flag because he was an Army Ranger who had seen multiple tours in combat. I had someone tell me on Facebook that there was no way Alejandro Villanueva was a minority. I kid you not. Someone told me he's not a minority.
What country are we talking about?
Because he looks white. He looks white. But there's no way you can convince me that Alejandro Villanueva is not Hispanic. His name screams Hispanic. But people just look and they're racist when it works, and they cry racism when they feel like it doesn't. And it's absolutely absurd.
By the way, I found it. Care to take a stab? Average rookie salary in the NFL?
Yeah, $450,000.
That's pretty doggone close, man. $365. $365,000. And that's if you're just a run-of-the-mill guy.
But it's also the average, right? So
right. Yeah.
Probably, some of those guys, man, they're only pulling like $200,000 a year.
Only $250,000?
They got to get on the plane, fly in luxury, ride on the bus with those leather seats, man. Come on. Don't give them such a hard time. They got it tough, man.
I'm sorry.
They got to get out there and kneel down during the national anthem. You know how hard that is? You got to get on your knee and stuff.
What you touched on earlier, very quickly, about the NFL's rule on that.
Yes.
So did you read up on that?
A little bit.
because I did.
Just that all players are supposed to face the flag, salute it, stay quiet, don't talk.
And it's actually in the NFL's
Rules.
policy book.
Yes.
So what they call their game operations manual. So it says right here, the national anthem must be played prior to every NFL game, and all players must be on the sideline for the national anthem.
Yeah.
So right away, we got guys breaking NFL policy.
And Roger Goodell does not care. He doesn't care.
He doesn't care about that. But if you go so far as to put, a breast cancer ribbon on your cleats and run out on the field when it's not sanctioned by the NFL, you will be fined. So we have this high and mighty free speech bonanza going on where, these guys can do whatever they want because it's the First Amendment.
Patrick,
but if they put a pink ribbon on their shoe, hey, we want $20,000.
I'm gonna one up you with this one. NFL Commissioner Roger Goodell from thedailywire.com attacked President Trump for showing a lack of respect for the NFL. This comes from the same commissioner who threatened NFL players who wanted to honor 9/11 victims and 5 police officers who were murdered in Dallas. The Dallas Cowboys wanted to pay tribute to 5 Dallas police officers murdered during a Black Lives Matter protest. Okay? The Cowboys had been wearing a special decal on their helmets that said "Arm in Arm" that specifically honored, how ironic, by the way, arm in arm. Unreal. It specifically honored the fallen police officers in Texas until the NFL stepped in and stopped it. The NFL had an opportunity to be leaders and advocates for change in law enforcement, and they failed. Let me tell you, nationally syndicated conservative talk show host Mark Levin got in a rage about it. Avery Williams.
What else is new?
Yeah, right. Avery Williams is starting linebacker for the Tennessee Titans. He hoped to wear a pair of specially designed cleats at his team's home opener against the Minnesota Vikings on the 15th anniversary of 9/11, but he backed off when a league representative vowed to fine him for violating the league's uniform code, according to the New York Post. You cannot honor murdered police officers, and you cannot honor 9/11 in the NFL, but you can honor attempted cop murderers, and you can take a knee during the national anthem and disrespect everyone who has fought and died for your right to take that knee. It's absurd. And let me make this point. In case someone says to you it's not about the flag, it is about the flag. It is. Because probably the most coherent argument I heard against it, our buddy Jonathan Brayton sent me a video on Facebook, and he said, hey, this guy could be your vote of the week. And it was a pretty dumb overall argument, but the guy had an interesting question at the end. He said, would everyone be so worked up if they were taking a knee to support disability programs for veterans and proper health care for veterans when they come home? Would these same people be so worked up? Or are they only worked up because they're taking a knee for racism in America, essentially? And I thought, that's an interesting question. So what's the answer? Well, the answer is, we wouldn't be worked up because it will never, ever happen. These men, because that is false logic. The logic there is, well, we would take a knee in protest to the way we're treating our veterans. But this is a movement that is being perpetuated by people who believe that America is racist against black people. Those men would never take a knee to support veterans. They would never take a knee to support white people. They are taking a knee because they believe the country is racist, and it's easy to say, well, I'm going to support people that look like me. And then if you're white and you're standing, now the Huffington Post wants everybody to think that you're standing up for white supremacy and you're supporting Nazis. Makes sense. It's absolutely unbelievable. It's unbelievable. So it is about the flag, and here's why. Because the flag is what unifies. Despite all the petty disagreements, despite all the little things that we might argue over, the flag is the thing we can look at and we can go, at the end of the day, I think you're an idiot, you think I'm an idiot, we disagree, but it's still America. It's still the United States of America. It's still the greatest country in the world. It's the greatest experiment in self-governance that has ever existed, and I'm okay with the fact that you want to live a life contrary to mine and contrary to my beliefs as far as religion goes, but you're going to do it under the banner of the Stars and Stripes. And when you start to take a knee and tell me, nope, I don't believe that because I believe the nation is systemically and inherently racist, then we can't have a conversation because you're talking about absurd things that aren't real. It's absolutely not real. It's not even close to true. It's not real. And that's the point everybody is missing, is it's all predicated on a lie. Every bit of this is predicated on a lie, that Colin Kaepernick decided to believe that the court of law in Baltimore, in Ferguson, and in Florida have all said, didn't happen, didn't happen, didn't happen. Didn't happen in all three cases. And then they want us to believe, well, it's just because everybody's so damn racist. Again, 50% of the people that killed Freddie Gray were black. But they didn't kill Freddie Gray. He killed himself. 50% of the people accused of killing Freddie Gray were black. And they were acquitted. Is that what you're mad about? It was a Hispanic man that shot Trayvon Martin. Is that what you're mad about? And there's a white cop that Michael Brown was trying to kill when he lost the game that he decided to play in Ferguson, Missouri. Is that what you're mad about?
I don't know if Colin Kaepernick knows this, but all cops aren't actually white.
Slow down now. Slow down. What is wrong with you? What is wrong with you?
I guess it's that systemic racism flowing through me.
Can't take you anywhere. Okay. So I hope that all makes sense. It seems like I went on a big tirade there, but I like that. All right, our Voda of the week this week. I like this one. This is kind of one of my favorites, actually. Wait, why are you playing in the background thing? Stop playing in the background. This is probably the most absurd story you'll ever hear. It's pretty absurd. There's been... Anyway. All right. This is from...
We just came off this NFL taking a knee thing. How much more absurd can it get?
ABC Action News in Tampa Bay. Charmin has offered a year's supply of toilet paper if the mad pooper will turn herself in. All right.
All right, you win. I quit.
The story is at abcactionnews.com, but it's from Colorado Springs, Colorado. While a woman seen repeatedly doing her business in a Colorado Springs neighborhood continues to elude capture, toilet paper company Charmin is offering up a deal that she may not want to pass. Pun intended. Pass. All right.
No, I got it.
All right. You got to keep up. The company offered the runner, dubbed the Mad Pooper by neighbors, a year's supply of toilet paper if she'll turn herself in. Charmin tweeted the offer hours after the story went viral. A witness snapped photos of a female runner who has apparently been caught treating people's yards as toilets on several occasions since July. The latest instance happened at a house in the Pine Creek neighborhood. A woman there told officers her children spotted the woman going right in the middle of things. Quote, young kids actually witnessed this and went in and said, Mom, there's a lady pooping in our yard. Maybe they didn't use that word, but the woman went out and confronted her. It was clear what she was doing, and she just took off. Police say if caught, the woman could face indecent exposure and public defecation charges. You know, it's funny. I was having a conversation with a guy at work tonight. One, by the way, real quick side note, who said, man, I had a terrible experience with my first gun purchase. I said, oh, yeah? He said, so I bought a Taurus 740 Slim, and I literally went, say no more. And then he and I both laughed. I said, hey, that's it. Story understood.
He was like, now's the last time I listened to that Yankee Marshall guy.
Right? And then another gentleman who was asking if he could draw from concealment on the range. And I said, well, I think you can actually go back there and get certified to draw. I'm not sure if they're still doing that, actually, but go talk to him. And then we kind of started chit-chatting, and he goes, yeah, I'm sure you got to be careful in here. I said, well, it's funny because sometimes you learn we got to make a rule about that. Who would have ever thought you had to make a rule about that? But we had a guy hip-firing an AK pistol, and we went out there to tell him stop. By the time we got there, he shot a sprinkler, and it flooded, and blah, blah, blah. And he was like, what? And I go, so there's these moments where you go, why would we need a rule about that? Like, nobody's dumb enough to do that. Oh, public defecation? Need a rule. Gonna need a rule on that one. It's against the law. Lo and behold.
Who knew?
Hey, make sure you grab us online at feltrecoilshow.com. We're on all the socials under the same banner, Felt Recoil Show. So just find us there. Appreciate all the follows on Facebook and on Instagram this week. This Saturday, pay attention to our Instagram page. We'll be spending the day with our sponsored shooter. It's going to be a good time. We'll be out there getting some video and some pictures of a 3-gun match. We have a sponsored shooter now. We'll get him back on the show to talk a little bit. He's been on here before. Hint, hint. We'll get him back on to talk about 3-gun a little bit more in-depth very soon.
How did we snare Larry Vickers into doing 3-gun under our banner?
Yeah, I meant to tell you that was a lie.
Oh, it's not that guy?
When I was like, hey,
different guy.
Will you split some cost with me to support a 3-gunner? And you're like, what's his name? And I said, Larry Vickers.
You owe me a lot of money.
That was a lie. But I would bet that with the leftover money I took from you, we could probably get him to let us call him Larry. We'll see.
All right, I'll try. I'm willing to try it.
Yeah, I think you'll be okay. All right, online at feltrecoilshow.com. I don't know what any of that was. Sorry, Larry Vickers. And we will see you back here next time for episode number 46 of the Felt Recoil Podcast.